The world is facing a global pandemic, a once-in-a-lifetime crisis, one which is possibly the single biggest threat facing humanity since World War II. Nations are scrambling to figure out a response so as to somehow manage the domestic socio-economic fallout of the crisis. Societies are withering, economies are wilting, and a health crisis is challenging us to alter our assumptions about national security. Global order, already under flux before the COVID-19 pandemic struck, stands at an inflection point with major powers either unwilling or unable to uphold their side of the bargain in its management. But for the Communist Party of China, CPC, it's business as usual. In fact, it's an opportunity to accelerate the process of presenting itself as a global power to the wider world. And that too not by making a case of Beijing as a benevolent power that is interested in working in concert with other powers to evolve a coordinated global response to the pandemic, but by bullying smaller neighbors and hectoring the not-so-small ones. Aside from targeting the Trump administration, CPC officials are busy berating Australian policymakers and forcing Europeans to acquiesce to their narrative. Every time any official from the West makes a point about China's culpability in mismanaging the initial stages of this crisis, the CPC machinery leaves no stone unturned in reminding the world that it is the West's own inefficiencies that have resulted in the crisis, achieving the magnitude it has, while China is gradually getting back to business. From using global institutions to further its agenda to launching misinformation campaigns, the CPC seems to have emerged as a real malevolent power intent on shaping the emerging world order in its own image. What is of equally grave concern is the use of the instrumentality of force by the CPC in projecting its power. At a time of a serious worldwide crisis, the CPC seems to be in a mood to put on display its growing military prowess not only in the South China Sea, but even beyond. Much to the outrage of other claimants, China established new administrative districts for the Spratly and Paracel archipelagos, and named 80 islands and other geographical features in the sea. The other nations like Vietnam and the Philippines could only challenge these actions diplomatically without any real effect. In fact, the Chinese military upped the ante further by sinking a Vietnamese fishing trawler and conducting military exercises in the contested maritime waters. Last month, the PLA's Southern Theater Command, which oversees the South China Sea, took part in an anti-submarine training exercise. It is certainly true that China has followed a long-term strategy towards establishing its claims in the region. With or without the COVID-19 crisis, it would have pressed ahead with its claims. After all, this is the standard salami slicing tactic it has followed for most of its territorial claims, whereby its minor actions without provoking any reaction from others over a period of time, lead to a strategic shift in the ground realities in its favor. But with the world distracted with managing the pandemic, the Chinese military seems to have got an even freer hand than otherwise. This was reflected in the concerns of Indonesian Foreign Minister, Retno Marsudi, who underscored that recent Chinese activities in the South China Sea could have potentially escalated tensions at a time when the global collective effort is vital in fighting COVID-19. And it is not only the South China Sea. Taiwan, Japan and even South Korea have had to face Chinese military recklessness. The Liaoning aircraft carrier strike group has sailed close to Taiwan and Japan, and PLA aircraft have been spotted at least 6 times flying close to Taiwan's airspace this year. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense has also announced that China is planning to set up an Air Defense Identification Zone, a DIZ, in the South China Sea. If you like the video, then please like the video. Thanks for watching friends, please like, share, and subscribe.